Good evening, everyone. I wanted to talk a little bit about opinions today, and I am recording a little bit early because we're going to be traveling when this is supposed to go up. Hopefully it goes up without a hitch because I won't be able to fix it. We'll literally be in the air. I'm going to try to get internet, but we're going to see what happens. I wanted to talk to you today about this thing that I posted during America Fest. I found this is something that the redheaded libertarian posted, and I found so interesting that I shared it on my Instagram page. So I wanted you guys to watch it, and it does include swearing, so please just be warned. Let's see what we can do. Oh, no, it's going to make me log in. Bunch of jerks. I don't like Instagram very much, and this is why. There we go. I think I can just open it in a new tab. Okay, perfect. Yeah. False information. The same information was reviewed by independent fact checkers in another post. Let's see why, and then we're going to see what he has to say. Can we see this, please? I just want to see why. It's not even going to tell me why.
Wow.
This is stupid.
Is that Brave?
No, this is Chrome. Yeah. Annoying. Let's see if we can see it. Okay, cool. We'll just watch it. And I'll tell you why they said it was wrong.
Let's just take Florida, for example, which is one of the fastest growing beachfront condominiums on the planet. In the prospectus, when you invest, there should be, in the footnotes, if global warming is for real, they won't put it that way, global warming happens and water rises 10 feet, this investment you made is fuck all. Not one single investment prospectus written this century has alluded to global warming. Not one motherfucker. If it were really true, the banks wouldn't invest. The banks wouldn't finance. Not one motherfucking condominium. Because the financial institutions, the banks of this world know it's not gonna happen. Otherwise, you couldn't get a goddamn loan in London. You know those 30, 40-year mortgages? The world will be over by then. With the greatest respect, ma'am, it's the greatest fraud that's been perpetrated on mankind this century.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is someone's unvarnished opinion, and I call it unvarnished because he's swearing like a sailor, which is fine. I consider swearing to be a part of freedom of speech, but Instagram, the most censorious platform I've ever used, threw a fact check up on this and even blurred it out so that you will be titillated into clicking it. I don't think they understand what the Streisand effect is, but I digress. Dan Pena, whom I was not familiar with before this video, has a very interesting opinion that he backs up with facts about 30 and 40-year mortgages, and Instagram still thinks that they need to fact check him. And if I recall correctly, the little fact check reads, you know what, let me look at my phone and read it for you guys, because it was so silly. It was like, oh, this person has an opinion, we don't like it, therefore ignore it for sure. And it was just so crazy to me. I was like, what's happening here? Let me read this. See why fact checkers say this is false. Okay, so let's start with the fact that Instagram is an incredibly buggy platform. Like, I can't see why fact checkers say this is false. Let me see if I can use my other account. I also have the Lighter Dips, which is where I post pictures of the cat and my dear husband and adorable pictures of both of them. So if you guys don't follow the Lighter Dips, you definitely should. Yeah, they basically said, oh, this is just one guy's opinion, man. You know how it is. And I am genuinely concerned that they're actually probably going to shut down my Instagram account at some point now, because during the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, they went back through and they found memes that I'd posted 2 years before when this actually happened, and they removed them for bullying. Of course, they don't show you what they removed. They don't tell you exactly what was wrong with it. They're just saying they're getting rid of it. You should know better, and that your account is at risk of being suspended, which is wild to me. But I was really curious whether an opinion can actually be falsifiable, because my understanding from my lessons in logic was that it can't be. Someone's opinion, someone is telling you what they think. You can't tell them whether they're telling a lie or not, which is actually one of the main things I harp on. I'm like, we don't know what other people are thinking when they talk. We should not be trying to put words into other people's mouths. And Scott Adams goes on about this at great length too, because people do it a lot to him. And he's like, you don't know what I'm thinking. And I make the further point that people don't know what they themselves are thinking in the first place. We don't even understand ourselves. We certainly don't have enough knowledge to say that we know what other people are thinking or what motivates them. Let's look at whether an opinion can be true or false. is kind of agreed with me, but this is a pretty nuanced view. When can opinions be false and result in false claims, act liability? 3 circuit courts provide conflicting guidance. Yes, it is a topic of hot discussion. Recently, 3 circuit courts have considered when opinions can be false under the FCA. Although the circuits disagree regarding whether plaintiffs must establish objective falsity to assert an FCA violation, they agree that the common law provides guidance regarding when an opinion can be false under the FCA. Under the common law test, opinions generally should not be deemed false unless the speaker did not believe the opinion, knows facts that preclude the opinion, or does not know facts that would justify the opinion. Okay, and this is where I want to pause because this is a really interesting summary of what would make someone's opinion wrong or false. Dan Pena was stating things that he was able to back up with facts. He's talking about the short-term effects of global warming and climate change. And he is saying if this were actually a threat, no one would give you a loan to build a condominium on a beachfront location. And I don't see anyone out there disproving him. I haven't seen a similar diatribe from the left. I've seen no one yelling, except maybe Greta Thunberg, and she doesn't even make sense. I've seen no one on the left yelling about how he's wrong. I've seen nobody talking about how loans aren't being given out because of global warming. That makes me think that Dan is right, and the reason that they put a fact check over him is because they don't have a good counter argument. And I think that's probably a fair analysis with a lot of these fact checks because they don't have a good argument. And this is what I wrote about when I wrote my little piece called Why Being a Conservative is Good for Your Brain. Because one of the things that I've noticed about being a conservative is that you are forced to defend your views at every turn. You defend it to your family if you have a liberal family. You defend it in all of your social media. You defend it on forums. You defend it in everyday conversation. You can literally defend it when you're talking about the weather because a lot of the times climate change will come up over the course of a discussion about weather. And then you can talk about, hey, maybe we're actually coming out of a really cold era. We haven't been able to measure the trends for long enough. I don't fully enough about it. Steven Crowder really gets into it, and there's a scientist called Bjorn Lomborg who just did an interview with Jordan Peterson that I really want to listen to because Bjorn Lomborg is actually talking about some of the positives of the way the climate is changing right now and whether or not humans are having an effect on it. Now, I will say, on the topic of actual environmental influence by humans, I am 100% of the view that if you are a conservative, you should be attempting to conserve the world in which we live. And I don't think that's crazy, and that is in no way a contradiction in terms. Literally, the goal of conservatism is some form of conservation. Now I'm getting the words confused. I think this is very important and something that people who believe in like a faith structure like Christianity should really fully subscribe to, because if you do believe in a system in which God created the world and made everything in its order and gave humans the responsibility of ruling over it, like it says in the Bible, then we have a great responsibility to also take care of it and to look out for the animals that can't look out for themselves. I forget who said it. It might have been Mark Twain, but somebody mentioned that the surest mark of character, if you want to see someone's true character, you need to look at how they treat someone who can do nothing for them. And I posted that quote on my Instagram a long while back over a picture of a little frog, but the fact is that even frogs do things for us. Frogs make it so that we're not overrun by bugs and all that other stuff. But when you have a frog sitting on your hand, there's not a lot he can do for you. He's pretty much at your mercy, but it is your responsibility, if you believe in a faith system like that, especially, it is your responsibility to make sure that that frog has a place to live, has a home, and has food, and you're not doing anything to actively undermine that. And that's 100% something that conservatives probably could and should get on board with, because I do believe we need to take our responsibility to the world seriously. But that's nothing to do with all this green nonsense. I think this green stuff is just a play for power. I think it always has been. And we'll see if this video gets demonetized, because I know that if I recall correctly, when Project Veritas was talking to CNN not too long ago, they were talking about how they were going to shift from the COVID frenzy to the climate emergency, I think they called it. And that's exactly what we've seen them roll out ever since COVID got a little bit better and a little bit easier to manage. So I'm not really surprised at all. It's always got to be something. I know you guys know this is something I started to notice a long time ago, was that It's always something that you have to panic over, something that has to push you to vote in the correct way, some kind of play for power. I know the left is always talking about systems of oppression and power plays and everything, and that is 100% because they're projecting. This is exactly what they're going for all the time. They just want power, and they want to be in charge. I think they genuinely believe that if they were in charge, the world could be a utopia, which obviously we know is not true. And again, as Jordan Peterson talks about, if you think that putting yourself in charge of everything would result in utopia, you really need to do some deep thinking of your own. But that's really the main issue with the left. And I think this is part of the reason that we have to push. So Andy and I were actually talking about this earlier this morning because I said, I think if we give people total freedom of speech and they push ideas like communism and there's not proper pushback, what can we expect other than a communist country? And Andy, of course, is free speech absolutist and says it doesn't matter. You have to allow people to be able to speak about communism and defeat it with good ideas. My only concern about communism is that it seems like the further people get from actually experiencing communism, the more likely they are to want to bring it back. So, for example, when I was in Estonia, I lived in Estonia for a year because my ex-husband was in school there. Those people do not like communism. None of those countries over there that most recently experienced communism have any truck with it. They do not love it. Whereas in the U.S., where we haven't really seen it firsthand, we're much more likely to fall prey to its beguiling tone, because it does sound like a utopia. They can make it sound good, and it's a serious problem because you get these idealistic young people who then are like, yeah, well, we're going to become missionaries and acolytes for this ridiculous ideology that's killed millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people over the course of, just like 100 years. But I digress. I do think that absolute free speech is 100% necessary. That's not at all something that you're going to find on Instagram. I think that the next good step for the conservative movement would be to make a conservative version of Instagram that's actually competitive, where you can just post your pictures. There are a lot of people on it, so you'll get the likes and the comments and all that interaction that people really look for. But before I go, I really have to show you guys this. Today's video is going to be a little bit shorter, and as I said, I am recording it earlier because we are going to be traveling this afternoon.
You should tell me about Minds, though.
Huh?
Minds.
Andy is telling me to tell you guys about Minds.com. He was posting video there, but it was giving him a hard time. So he says they fixed it. Okay, good. Minds is a great alternative. The only issue I have with Minds and other places like it is that more people aren't there. So if you guys will join, come follow me and follow Andy. Andy posts all his skating videos over there. Before I go, I have to show you guys this little thing that they left in our hotel room. It's a masterpiece. This is a bunny made out of a washcloth. He's tied with a little pink sparkly ribbon. He has two little googly eyes, and he has a Christmas tree sticker in case you didn't get the memo. And I think he's wonderful, and I just wanted to share him with you guys because it was totally unnecessary, but it's adorable, and it's just one of those things that makes life a little bit more fun, especially as you're traveling and you're probably likely stressed. So I hope that you guys will all have a wonderful day of Christmas shopping today. As soon as we get back, I need to do a bunch of Christmas shopping myself. I'm really looking forward to that, but we also have doctor's appointments and insurance and stuff that we're still working on. So there is no rest for the wicked or for adults. I'm starting to think they're one and the same because you don't really get a break. And being a wife is very much like being a full-time secretary. But I digress. I just wanted to share that story about that ridiculous video on my Instagram. If you guys don't follow me over there, you definitely should, for I'm sure the short time that I will be on that platform. And I think after that, I will make the full switch over to Minds.com because they have a pretty good image support format over there. And it's always fun. Would be more fun if more people joined us. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to mention. Wish us luck as we're flying. They're saying that there's some weather disturbances, although it looks really nice over here. I know it is still Arizona. But yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a huge crush, so we're going to try to get to the airport a little bit early today. Wish us the best. All right, hopefully this goes up when it's supposed to, and I will see you all tomorrow. Until then,